Oscar Wilde once said, "At present people see fogs, not because they are fogs, but because poets and painters have taught them the mysterious loveliness of such effects." In saying this, Wilde claims that artists reveal the beauty of everyday life to us. In this podcast, we're going to explore the subject of air, a subject which is all around us, within us, and usually invisible to the eye. The beauty of our subject, however, is revealed in several artworks here at the IU Art Museum. We'll look at a painting by Sanford Robinson Gifford, a photograph by Nina Korhonen, a sculpture by Marcel Duchamp, and an installation by Sol LeWitt. We'll begin with Sanford Robinson Gifford's oil painting, Winter Twilight, which he painted in 1862. In the painting, we immediately see three people ice skating at nightfall. We also see a vibrant orange skyline illustrating the atmosphere of the evening light. The painting is almost twice as wide as it is high, accentuating the space in the foreground and the stretching gradient of colors in the background. The vibrant colors come from the light of the sun passing through the lowest point of the sky, which contains the densest amount of air. As the light passes through the air, the short wavelengths of violet and blue are deflected in all directions so they can't reach our eyes. Red and orange, being the longest wavelengths, pass through the sky and reach our eyes, dominating our perspective of the sky's brilliant color. Next, we'll look at an artwork that makes the atmosphere visible in a different way, using digital photography. The piece was created in 2006 by Nina Korhonen. The photograph is titled Tide, Galatian, Galatia, which is from the series Rewind the Photographs. It is an image of a small figure standing far away in the center of a foggy landscape, creating a space between the viewer and subject. The figure is actually the artist herself, making this photograph a self-portrait. The dialogue between the camera looking at her from a distance is a unique experiment of a self-portrait that has been described as spiritual, mysterious, and psychological. We also know the figure is far away because of how high she is on the picture plane, the scale of her figure, and the amount of fog between her and the camera, causing her to appear lighter in value and bluish in color. The fog between us and the subject is the very kind of fog Oscar Wilde referred to in his quote at the beginning of this podcast. When objects are far away from us, the atmospheric conditions are visible between us and those objects, making those objects appear farther away in space and slightly less visible. This effect is illustrated frequently in paintings from all over the world because it is a phenomenon we see in nature everywhere. Next, we'll look at a piece by Marcel Duchamp called Air de Paris, 50 cc's of Paris air. This piece was replicated in 1964 from the original, which was created in 1919. Duchamp made several works called readymades in the early 1900s that were an antidote to what he referred to as retinal art, or art that he felt was strictly visual. His readymades focused on selecting objects and then titling and or signing them. Sometimes the objects were placed on their side or hung on the ceiling in an attempt to abstract them from their original identity. Duchamp proclaimed, "It was always the idea that came first, not the visual example." He also said, "It was a form of denying the possibility of defining art." Air de Paris, 50 cc's of Paris air, is an ampule from a pharmacist in Paris. Ampules were traditionally used to seal fluids for medical uses, but here it is used for air. Since the air was sealed in an ampule when it was made in Paris, the air is then contained Paris air. This example of Duchamp's ready-made challenges us with such questions about the visibility of art, the importance of Paris in the modern art world, and the identification and role of art. As we can see, the air inside the ampule appears the same as the air around us, but in this context, with it being contained and labeled, we think about it differently. This revelation is made possible after learning about the artwork instead of strictly looking at it, which emphasizes the concept of the ready-made. As we merge into such challenges, our next piece comes from the author of Sentences on Conceptual Art and Paragraphs on Conceptual Art, Sol LeWitt. Sol LeWitt was a minimalist conceptual artist whose claim to fame came in the 1960s and 70s in New York City. The piece is a large installation of 9 structures made of painted aluminum. At first sight, you should notice the repetition of the cube in each structure. Its title, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, represents part of the math that went into its creation. By walking around the installation, patterns are observable due to the positive and negative spaces created by the lines of the sculpture and the spaces between them. The space, however, is nothing but air, which really makes up most of the space the installation takes up in the gallery. In terms of our discussion about how air interacts with its environment to create effects, the effect created here is virtually invisible, but crucial because the open space is measurable by the repeated square structure in LeWitt's installation, creating a sense of quantifiable space in the gallery. In conclusion, we've looked at 4 artworks which reveal different effects of air: how it creates color, how it can make something appear farther away, how it can be identified, and how it is all around us. Thinking back to Oscar Wilde's concept of the artist revealing the beauty of everyday life, this concept is exemplified in these works, making everyday experiences extraordinary.